Hey everyone, Jarb here, and welcome back to Stuff I Watched March Edition. I watched a ridiculous amount of movies this month, so once again, let's just get into it. First, I watched Mulholland Drive, and yeah, this was something else. This was my first ever David Lynch, and based off what I had heard about the man, this did anything but disappoint. It certainly isn't easy to understand or straightforward at all, and Lynch's tips to look out for while watching it only made it harder for me to understand, but I'm pretty sure I kinda get it now. Pretty gorgeous visuals and a ridiculously complicated plot. What more could you ask for, really? After that, I watched The Other Guys. This was one of many comedies I watched while having a good time, to put it in code, I guess. But this was a first watch for me, and I mean, what do you want me to say? It's pretty funny, and Farrell and Wahlberg's chemistry is really good, and same with The Rock's and Samuel L. Jackson's. Surprisingly though, this one kind of lost me the longer it went on. I just think it could have shaved off 15 minutes because the third act really feels long and isn't very funny for some reason, so it did sour on me the longer it went. Then I watched Flamin' Hot, Tetris, and The Beanie Bubble, and I'm saving my thoughts on those for a video coming soon, so look out for that. Also, I rewatched Tenet and the Batman trilogy, but if you want my thoughts on those, you should check out my Nolan video, which is already out. After that, I watched SemiPro, continuing the comedy trend. This is very similar to The Other Guys, but didn't run longer than it should have. A perfect Farrell comedy is around an hour and a half, and this one is. Plus, I love basketball, I love Woody Harrelson, and Andre 3000, so this was kind of guaranteed to work for me. Then I watched The Big Lebowski. It was a Coen Brothers month for me, and this started it off. Just a killer comedy with such an amazing cast who are also killing it. The Coens have really mastered dialogue and comedic timing to a T. It truly feels like in this field they're operating at a level that no one else can match. This kind of feels like it earned the timeless classic label I've seen it be given, even if it isn't my favorite Coens, just because it's so easy to watch and just so dang charming. After that, I watched Anatomy of a Fall. This was part of an Oscars binge I did in preparation for the Oscars, and this one just truly blew me away. What Justine Triet and the whole cast does with such a simple concept of did she do it or not is mind-blowing, and how captivating this is for like 3 sets with just people talking in it is just so impressive. Sandra Hüller, Milo Machado, and Swan Arland are all so good. Milo Machado might give the best child performance I've ever seen. Such an interesting and gripping way to tackle the feeling of ambiguity and uncertainty. Please check this one out. Then I watched Nimona, and oh yeah, it's cute. It's a really gorgeous movie, and it's a damn shame the nominees for Best Animated Feature were so stacked this year because man, it would have been very deserving a lot of other years. It certainly isn't for me, but I'm okay with that and glad to see something like this become the standard for children's animation. After that, I watched Poor Things in preparation for the Oscars as well, and man, this is one of my favorites from last year. This movie has been discussed constantly and deservedly, won a ton of awards, so I won't go on too long, but yeah, I loved it. Visually, it's gorgeous, both the set design and cinematography. They really work together to craft this strange and beautiful world. Emma Stone is very great, and even if Gladstone should have won, that shouldn't be a slight to just how great of a performance Stone is giving here. Like, it really is phenomenal. Mark Ruffalo is also great, and he's hilarious almost every time he's on screen, and I kind of wish he won Best Supporting Actor. He really is just so key to this movie landing its tone. Then I watched The Zone of Interest for the Oscars watch, and this was truly a haunting and unforgettable experience. Glazer, through the sound design and overwhelming feeling of chilling horror, crafts a truly all-time movie that deserves to be recognized for how masterfully done it is. From a technical aspect, I think I would honestly call this movie flawless. It really has maybe the best sound design I've ever heard. After that, I watched American Fiction as my final watch for the Oscars. Yeah, this one probably didn't deserve Best Picture, although it still is a really well done satire that is carried by Jeffrey Wright and Sterling K. Brown's performances. The whole family drama could have been cut out, and I think the movie might have been a bit better for it, but I can't say this movie ever felt like it was dragging or taking too long. Then I watched Sisters with Transistors. This one was for school and I didn't pay that much attention, but shout out women. After that, I rewatched Step Brothers. Out of all my fun time comedy watches this month, this was definitely my favorite of them all. It certainly lands the jokes the best, doesn't take too long, and I think it's no surprise that my favorite had John C. Reilly in it, because man, does he really elevate almost every comedy he's in. Then I watched All Quiet on the Western Front, and yeah, I liked it. It's all well done, and the character drama works pretty well here. I think I made it clear with my thoughts on Dunkirk that I prefer war movies that hone in on the characters, and this one does. Except for when it doesn't, I feel like the general scenes and war planning scenes were overwhelmingly unnecessary, and I was glad to see that fans of the book also made that complaint, considering that this stuff is completely new to the movie. Maybe war movies just aren't it for me, but this didn't do enough new with the genre to really win me over fully. After that, I watched On the Count of Three and kind of loved it. I'm a huge fan of Jared Carmichael, not just because we share a name, and I was glad to see how much I loved his featured directorial debut. It's hard to fake the chemistry him and Christopher Abbott have, and their chemistry really makes the story and emotional beats work even better. I do highly recommend checking this one out on Hulu if you haven't seen it already. I do not see enough people talking about this one. Then I watched Wonka. I was really hoping to like this one, and I'm really glad that I did. Timothy has been giving quite the run, and I'm glad he did something this unashamedly fun. I really love just how heartfelt this movie was, rarely undercutting those feelings for a joke and just embracing the sincerity of it all. Songs aren't too memorable, but good defined performances do more than enough for this to work. After that, I saw Dune Part 2 again, and I mean, what more is there to say? The movie is so damn good, and what really stuck out to me on a second viewing is how well paced it is and how great every performance is. It wouldn't work nearly as well without those. Then I rewatched Asteroid City. Sure, I didn't dislike this on my first viewing, but it was pretty far from my favorite Wes, and that certainly changed on a rewatch. Something about how Wes tackles his own feelings as a creative and the point of it all really resonated with me here. And that third act really lands well. I plead with you to rewatch this if you saw it once and weren't sure how to feel about it. After that, I watched Pride and Prejudice and kind of loved it. Sure, you could make it a bit shorter, I guess, but if that meant less Mr. Darcy, I'm more than okay with it running a little long. It really nails this dreamy atmosphere that's so palpable, I feel like I could taste it watching the movie. It really is a movie that's visuals and feelings will stick with you even weeks after watching it. Also, come on, that hand scene, man. Then I watched Perfect Days, and this might be one of my favorite movies ever. There's so much beauty and simplicity in the mundane, even in bathrooms, and Perfect Days just so wonderfully captures that beauty in every scene and action. It just continues to draw you in. The contentness that Hirayama has with his simple life and the routines is both something to strive for, but also something to ponder on. The movie doesn't portray his life as perfect or his choices as harmless, but lets the audience decide how to feel and allows us to see a beautiful and detailed picture of this man and his life. Please go check this one out. After that, I watched Promising Young Woman. This is the second of Emerald Fennell's movies that I've seen, and probably the one I prefer, but I don't know how much that really means. The cast is all great, and I audibly gasp with each new appearance, and Mulligan and Bo Burnham are both really good. But much like Saltburn, this feels like it wants to convey a deep societal message, but just stumbles to find the point it wants to say and never really commits to it. The ending is particularly really bad. I don't know, I just left this one feeling empty. Then I watched No Country for Old Men, and this is another movie that is as good as the reputation that precedes it. I have an interesting opinion on this movie, having read the book it's based on, but I kind of want to save that and my thoughts on it for its own video one day. Very great movie though. After that, I watched Raising Arizona, and each Coens movie I watch makes it harder to not call it my new favorite Coens movie. It's weird to see they made a somehow wackier and zanier comedy than The Big Lebowski, but similarly to that, the goofiness really works for me. Unlike Big Lebowski, I think this fully nails the theme it's going for. The difficulty of family and the messiness of it all are just really well executed. Nick Cage and Holly Hunter are fantastic, easily another one of my favorites ever. Then I watched the Mean Girls remake, and I don't have anything of value to say about this other than I had a really great time. Renee Rapp is actually kind of decent in her role, but it doesn't matter with the script. I just couldn't believe what I was watching half the time. The music is all awful, like one song has Apex Predator as the hook, the movie opens in Africa, which just completely threw me off. I don't know, I still had a fun time though. After that, I watched Charade and had a legitimately fun time with this one. I get the hype behind Audrey Hepburn, she has the sauce, man. The movie looks really great, especially for 1963. It's super well written, and the chemistry between Hepburn and Cary Grant was amazing. I can't lie though, I was having the best time every time Bartholomew was on screen. He is stealing the show with every appearance for me. Then I watched Dream Scenario, and this was far better than I expected it to be. A lot of people I knew were really excited for this, but the trailer just didn't do it for me, so I'm more than glad the movie did do it for me. It works really well as this hilarious and dark satire of our current information age and social media, as well as just the idea of an online presence altogether. Nick Cage is truly phenomenal, and I don't know how this would have worked with anyone else leading it. After that, I watched Disaster Artist, and yeah, I liked it. Has an overwhelmingly stacked cast, like Nathan Fielder is in this. Dave Franco really does a lot of heavy lifting here, and thankfully, because the bad man Helmet all isn't actually giving the best performance in the movie, it still is kind of passable. I don't know, it's funny and at least interesting, so I'm glad I eventually saw it. Then I watched Jackie Brown, and while this is clearly an early film in Tarantino's filmography, dang is it still fun. He isn't doing anything really new here from a stylistic perspective, but a really amazing score and some great acting means that I was never bored. After that, I watched Selma to round out the month, and dang is this good. Technically, this is very oppressive and really moves along the story of MLK really well. Plus, the performances are all very strong, particularly David Oyelowo's and Carmen Eogos. I hope I didn't mispronounce those. It's very important that movies like this exist, but I doubt that's a hot take, and I'm glad to see that when they do exist, it's being made really well. As far as shows go, I finished Demon Slayer Season 2, and it did not get much better, so I don't know if I'm going to check out Season 3, but I probably will. I've also been watching Invincible Season 2 since it picked back up, and man, is it good. Quite excited for that season finale, and I've also checked out 2 episodes of that X-Men show, and man, is it cool to see Marvel put something fun, creative, and good out again. Can't wait for more of it. And that was my March. An even more packed month than the last, and I didn't even talk about like 7 of the movies I saw. If you want to hear any of my thoughts on these movies or see if they change, you should follow me on Letterboxd, and that's all for now. So as always, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and go watch some movies.